Hi everyone, welcome back to Edge Kingdom College. It's Celine and we'll be going through the selective preparation test 35 today. So firstly, just some key points. So comprehension. I want you guys to read these texts, but understand in a literal sense what is actually going on. So, for example, there was a window, right? And the window had, I don't know, like green panels. So in a literal sense, we're envisioning a window and it's like like tinted green, right? And because of that, we can jump to conclusions as to what the green symbolizes, what the window symbolizes, and so on. This is what we call creating inferences or reading in between the lines. This is basically when we try and figure out what a certain object, action, or event represents. So it's beyond, oh, it has meaning beyond its literal representation. So those are just some things we're going to look out for as we do answer these questions. So question one asks us, the protagonist in this passage is who? So just right off the bat, I want you guys to see that in throughout the entire extract, we refer to Ellen, who is the farm girl or the child, by her name. So because we refer to that person by their name, we know it's not their perspective. Because when you think about it, right, like when you refer to yourself or when you personally speak, you use personal pronouns or first person perspective, right? So, for example, like I wouldn't say, like, oh, Celine passed her exam. I would just say, I passed my exam. It would be really weird if I just called myself like from third person perspective. So, immediately we know it's not C or D. Now, the same thing happens with the widow. So, if you look at the first paragraph that I've put up on the board, you'll notice that she refers to the widow as a widow, boarded with a widow who had a spare room in her house. So, once again, they're being referred to by their actual position slash name. So, it's weird, basically. It's quite odd. And it's just inappropriate in general. Like, no one really does that. So the only plausible answer we would get would be B, the teacher, right? And this answer makes more sense when you start looking at the later parts of the extract where they start to describe the school setting. So the perspective starts talking about Mr. Gregg and how Ellen presents herself or themselves at school. So it just becomes the only plausible answer. Now, in question two, they ask us the relationship between the widow and Ellen can best be described as blank. So, when we look at the parts where the widow is speaking or being in relation to Ellen, we see a little bit of an affectionate relationship. So, she boarded with a widow who had a spare room in her house and who did her best to give Ellen the plumpness she associated with good health. So, the extract later on suggests that the widow starts feeding Ellen, basically, right? So this seems feeding someone is just like a sign of care, right? It's niceness, manners, even. So we can get rid of A and D because A and D is associated with like negative connotations, like being awkward, not being close with someone. But in this situation, offering someone food because they seem like too like malnourished is just a sign that you care for that person. And also just a meal symbolizes that you want to be with someone. I think C, joyful, is a little bit of a stretch because we're looking, if it's joyful, we're looking for something that's kind of exciting even, right? But in this extract, we're seeing a lot more of that caring nature, of that giving, accepting, like loving sense rather than like constantly being like happy. Question three then asks us which reason is most likely to have helped Helen decide to move to Jindaru. So, in the first paragraph, right, we understand that Ellen did not used to live in Jindaru. So, in the last sentence of that paragraph, she states it had been, or they state It had been a wrench to leave her family and her friends to come here, but it was an adventure too. So the sentence starts off kind of sad, because you know you're leaving your loved ones and your relatives, but then this dash, it symbolizes a change in tone, and just a change of mind, a very sudden change in mind, and it ends a really upbeat. Adventure is associated with something that's new. So for that reason, the answer would be A. There isn't enough information for us to deduce that it was B, C, or D anyway. So yeah. For question 4, how easy was the move from the city for Ellen? So we're looking for an answer that tells us like to what extent, right? So they're not asking us like, oh, why did she move, or how did she move. It's asking us like, was the move easy, or was it hard, or was it not really easy or not really hard. So we can kick out C and D already, okay? Because C and D don't tell us like to what extent, they just tell us, oh, she just had to, right? But that's not what the question is asking us. It's asking us to what extent. Because of the extract I've put up on the board as well, we can see that Ellen has had a little bit of a struggle. So for one, she did have to leave her relatives and her loved ones. But also, in the last sentence up on the board, she had learned to wear stout boots to save her washing water for the garden flowers, to rise earlier and go to bed sooner. So this change seems to be very unfamiliar and honestly quite difficult. I think the part that stood out to me the most was the fact that she had to save her washing water for garden flowers. That is not easy. That is, you having to be frugal about your water. That's yeah. That's just it's just difficult, honestly. So for that reason, moving to the city was moving from the city is difficult or not that easy for Ellen. This is only one of the examples as well. You can even look at further on into the extract where when we discussed before, like the widow was feeding Ellen because she looked so like malnourished basically. So you can even look at the relationship between them and use that as an example for your answer. For questions 5 to 10, we have a little bit of like a newspaper article. It's a little short. This will go back to the points of this video, which is to take things literally, but we will also have some questions that ask us like, what does this mean? So let's get started. In question 5, whilst in Greece, Mokbel has been found guilty, jailed for what crime? So first paragraph, he was jailed for a year by Greek court for holding false passport and driver's license. These are fake documents. They're fake documents in regards to identity. So the answer would be B. He's being jailed for being in possession for false personal documents. In question 6, in search of Mokbel, which authorities were looking out for him? So I decided to put in the entire extract because we're given a fair amount of characters in this extract. So they have mentioned like the Victorian police, Melbourne drug lord, the Greek authorities. We've even got ANU in there. But ultimately, this crime really took place in Greece, right? If we take closer look as well in around the left and middle column as well, you'll note that they constantly say like he was jailed for a year by a Greek court. Mokbel 41 has been in a Greek prison since his arrest, and Mokbel is due to return to court in Greece on October 9. So a lot of this is just happening in Greek, and also like he really wants like a trial in Greece anyway. There's a question later on which we will explore that as well. In question 7, Mokbel's character can be best described as what? So I took this from around the end of the extract. Mokbel is basically on the run, right? Mokbel was intending to drag on the extradition process, which could take 12 months. And then at the very last part, it says that Mokbel was on trial in the Supreme Court in Melbourne on drug charges when he absconded in March 2006. So he was supposed to turn up in court in Melbourne for drug charges, but then he absconded. Absconded means like ran away or like he fled, right? So this is, well, we know it's not friendly and kind, right? It's this is very uncooperative behavior when you think about it. Because of that, it is unfavorable and roguish. Unfavorable means that that's not something you really want. Roguish is often associated with like criminal activity, right? Like think of quite literally just like running away, or just not being cooperative. Vicious but helpful. There's not really much signs that he was violent, and him not cooperating is not helpful. And for C, sad and lonely, this there's not enough information for us to suggest that he was, sad or lonely or even like happy, right? There's not much to say about his emotions in this piece. So the answer would be D. Question 8 asks us, the extradition process has been put in place by which authorities? So firstly, extradition means like trying to say like catch a criminal even though they transcend like your borders. So in this article, Mokbel can be in Greece but also in Australia. So the whole extradition process has got to do with Greece and Australia having to work together so that justice is served, basically. So anyway, in this case, we want to find out who, I guess, is taking like the reign, right? Who's really like driving this. So although a lot of these events have taken place in Greece, the person or the people really driving this ultimately is the Victorian police, which is the Australian authorities. This is seen in the extract in the first two columns, but particularly the last line of the first column. A Victoria police spokeswoman said last night the extradition request would proceed. So it's being driven by the Victorian police, and that's in Australia. Now, question 9, how does Tony Mokbel feel about returning to Australia? So in the extract, it states, Mokbel is due to return to court in Greece on October 9 to fight orders that he return to Australia. He claims that he will not receive a fair trial here. So this is interesting because, one, like he doesn't want to return, right? So immediately D is not really there. He does care about it. He does not want to go back to Australia. So he's not keen because he feels as if Australia will not judge him fairly or equally, right? Because of that, the answer would be A. He is not keen because he feels that there will be a lot of prejudice against him in Australia. Prejudice means like you have this belief against someone, right, based on literally nothing, right? So consider social movements like racism and sexism. Those are based on really they're not based on personal values. They're based on I guess like hatred, right? And they're just wanting to feel better than other people. So prejudice is a word that describes like all of those those issues in society. So whether it be sexism, racism, ableism, anti-Semitism, that's what prejudice means. And he feels as if he's going to be judged unfairly. Prejudice is unfair. So here we go. In question 10, it asks us, Victoria Police is keen to see what events unfold. So In the extract, it states, but Victoria Police will continue to push for his extradition to Australia to face murder charges linked to Melbourne's underworld war. So Victoria does want to see Mokbel, I guess, in court, but Victoria Police wants Mokbel in relation to the murder charges with Melbourne's underworld war. So because Mokbel is basically all over the place, Greece, Australia, and whatnot, they want to see him, I guess, extradited. So, like I mentioned before, that's when two countries or two areas join together to, I guess, like catch a criminal. So that's quite literally what the Victoria Police wants to do. They want to see him just kind of served with justice. So that's why the answer is B. Especially because the Victoria Police cannot get this information from Mokbel if he's only in Greece, right? So there needs to be collaboration between Australia / Victoria and Greece in order for this information to be shared, and also Greece is looking for Mokbel because of the crimes he's already committed anyway, in regards to false identity documents. So just to recap, right? We did a lot of comprehension for this test, where we understood, particularly in the previous extract, where we just looked at what was literally being said, but also we looked at what did certain actions mean? Like, what does it mean to, I guess, like, what does it mean to feed somebody in the first extract, right? So I hope you guys have kind of picked up on these ideas, and I hope you carry them on to your future readings. I'll see you guys for the next test, where we will most likely go ahead and utilize these skills as well. But otherwise, please have a safe week, and I'll see you then. Bye!